Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. What we're going to do this week is work on this little guy here. So finally, if you watched the last episode, I was waiting for some stuff to come in. I was waiting for the RGB amp and some cap kits and things like that. But the RGB amp actually came in from Voultar. It's just in this tiny little bag. But we're going to go ahead and RGB this N64. And I know some of you are probably thinking, don't do it, it's a limited edition one. But this is actually a Nintendo 64 I got forever ago at a flea market for like $5. It was completely gross and infested with roaches and just disgusting. So I was able to open it up, kind of clean it out, get everything going. And it's kind of hard to see probably on camera, but it's all kind of scratched up, and it's really not a good colorway Nintendo 64. So what we'll do is I'll show you the amp real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and take this apart, and we're going to go ahead and start desoldering some, I believe they're caps that we need to get rid of to install the new amp. So let's get started. Alright, so here is the Voultar RGB amp and a little bit of wire that I ordered from them. I believe this kit's like $15 or $16, I can't remember. If you just search for N64 RGB, you'll see it pop up. But basically this actually drops right in, and it goes onto the original AV out pin here that's already here on the 64. So this way I already have the RGB cables for my NES RGB. It uses the same cables, and we'll be able to use that. So just a quick closer look on the 64. I don't know if I can get any of the damage, but if you look at things like the reset button, it's all kind of scratched up. I tried to polish them the best I could, but it's really a rough example of this, which is sad, because this is actually my favorite of the color. The watermelon's my favorite color of the 64 colorways, but it's beat up. So rather than letting it die a horrible death, we're going to go ahead and RGB mod it. It does work. I was able to clean everything off once I cleaned the boards out and got all the crap and bugs and everything out of there. It does work perfectly fine, but I needed an RGB one anyways, so this would be a good one. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this plastic off, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the boards. Just wanted to make a quick note, when you're taking these apart, they don't use normal screws, so make sure you have your trusty old bit drivers here. These were like on eBay a while ago. These were like $10 for both, and it does the bigger stuff as well as the smaller stuff. So this does like cartridges, and then this does Sega Genesis, and I think it also does, it'll do the Nintendo 64, but the only thing it doesn't do is the GameCube has a weird like tri-tip screw. But if you just search for like video game bit drivers on eBay, it comes up with a full kit with these plus the tri-wing. Alright, so we've got the screws out. We're going to go ahead and pull the feet off here, little booster feet things. I should be able to go ahead and flip this guy over. Once we do that, we should be able to open this guy, unless I missed a screw or something. Did I miss a screw? Let's see. I'm thinking I did. So you're just being stubborn. There we go. Forgot you gotta take the little booster pack thing out. So I'll go ahead and remove this guy. You can see I tried to clean it up as best I could. This thing was full of bug guts and all kinds of just disgusting things here, so. But we got these over here. I always use a little bin to keep my screws and pieces and stuff like that in. This way it's not in the way. Put that down on the floor so it doesn't get cracked. And then we got to go ahead and pull these screws out now. And once these screws are out, we'll be able to pull the full board out, and then we can flip it over, and then we can start looking to see where the amp's going to go. Alright, so we're back. We got that off. About 5 billion screws here. So pull the board out here. We'll move the shell down here. I'm going to clean that out again. So make sure I got all the grossness out of it. But here is the actual board that we're going to be working on. You can see here it looks like at some point they spilled something. I don't know if it's going to pick up on the camera, but it's kind of like there's fluid on it. So I'm going to go and get some rubbing alcohol and kind of clean everything up. Get some of this stuff off here before we actually start soldering and doing some stuff. So we'll get started with that. Alright, so we got the board cleaned up as good as we can get it. So we're actually, now that we're looking at the top of the board here, we're going to flip it over. And this is the area here that we're going to be focusing on where this RGB amp fits. So this is a little tiny amp here. And I believe what we do is we kind of rest it on these little pins here. And it's not going to be perfect. I'm just kind of showing you how it fits. And then basically once it's on there, we're going to go ahead and solder that down, and then we solder our RGB leads here. So I believe these pull from, I'm not sure exactly where, I got to look it up real quick. But we solder our RGB and our ground here, which is that little strip of wire here that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and research that real quick, and then we'll come back once we figure it out and start actually soldering this stuff here. So here's why it pays to pay attention. So unfortunately, we are not going to be able to finish this up today because I did not read before I bought this. So apparently this RGB amp is only compatible with earlier models of the N64. So this is an NUS CPU 8.1. So in looking at the website here, this is only compatible with serial numbers that start with NS1. So if you look this up, this is actually an NS2. This is a later revision 1999 Nintendo motherboard. So I'm gonna have to try to find a launch N64. What's different, I'm not 100% sure, but apparently it does not work with this motherboard. So I'll check around locally to see if I can find an N64 or if I can find like a console only on eBay. And then what we'll do is, because I want to have the pink shell when that new main board comes in, we'll go ahead and pull that one out. We'll solder the RGB amp into that, and then we will go ahead and keep it moving. So pay attention, kids. Do some research before you order an amp. Luckily, this amp was only like 20 bucks, so it's not the end of the world. And we'll still get use out of it. Plus, this thing was still actually pretty dirty, so not all is lost. We get to clean up our board. So I'm going to just put this to the side over here, and then we're actually going to go ahead and start taking apart something else. Alright, well, change of plans. Luckily, living in Tallahassee, we have a lot of retro game stores here. I think there's 3 or 4. So I was able to kind of go online and ask around, and one of the stores that's actually right across the street from Flippin' Great Pinball, it's called Super Secret Bonus Level. They actually had some N64s. So before I went over there, I actually asked if it was okay if I opened them up to kind of make sure I get the right revision, and after the third one we opened, stumbled across this guy. So this is the right one. This is the Revision 03, which has the proper board that we need to add the RGB amp. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this one look like this one real quick. So I'm going to take it apart, and then we'll pick it back up once we are ready to install. Alright, so here we go. So here on the top we see this is the NUS CPU 03, which is the one that we need. So now we should be able to go ahead and take our little RGB kit back out and make sure everything fits. It should. I think the connector is all the same. These bags are the worst. But just to double check, we're going to take this here, make sure everything fits like it's supposed to, like this. And it does. Alright. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the soldering equipment out, and we're going to go ahead and start filling this stuff in, clipping everything on, and we're going to run our wires to make sure that everything fits. So let me go get all the soldering crap out and we'll pick it back up. Alright, so to show you some of the prep that we did here, I'm watching the Voultar installation video. Might be a little hard to see, but up here we had to clear out two, see if it focuses, R15 and R16. It's actually right over here. We had to remove those two components there, and then the other ones were actually down here. We had to remove those guys there, C22, R6, and R14. So those are removed, and now we're going to go ahead and actually put the little RGB amp on here. Alright, so we have the RGB amp installed. So you can kind of see here, here's the amp sitting on the multi-out pins. We removed some vias over here. So we have the R, the G, the B. They're not color-coded, I know that, but this is the wire that came with it. And then we have our sync here off of R16. So I'm going to go ahead and put this guy back together, and then we're going to go inside and see if it works. But just some work here. Kind of fits over there. Pardon my soldering, my good iron's up at my shop, so I had to use my backup. But that's what we're looking at. Let's go test it. Alright, so we got it partially reassembled. I went ahead and put it kind of just in the bottom for now. I had a little bit of a freak out. I plugged it in, nothing was working, but well, I'll show you what happened in a second. But I did want to show you this here. I did have a couple extra LEDs, so I went ahead and actually changed the front LED here to blue, just because it looks neater. But no, when I first came in here and powered everything on, I didn't have this guy in, so I had a completely black picture, and I started freaking out. So I started reading the YouTube thread, and I was reading about C-Sync and everything, and I went back out to my soldering iron and I said, oh, the jumper pack's here. So I plugged it in, and there we go. We have very, very beautiful, crisp RGB. So right now this is kind of just running through the FrameMeister, so it's not on a CRT like a PVM or anything, but
still just seeing this in RGB, it's amazing how much better that image quality is. So that's pretty much going to do it for this one. I'll show you one more quick little tidbit with everything fully back together, but would 100% recommend the Voultar RGB board. It's very, very nice. So I do have that extra board from the original Watermelon 64. So this is out of the gray 64, it's the early revision. So what I'm probably going to do with that other one is put it back in the gray one for now, but we're probably going to use that for the Ultra HDMI mod. But that'll be another video, so I'll go ahead and finish putting this back together and show you what it looks like. Alright, so here it is, all buttoned up. Got everything cleaned in, got the little blue LED in there, and then again here is Mario 64 running in RGB glory. Looks really good. So the mod was pretty straightforward. I'd say if you have basic soldering skills, you can do it. There's a really good YouTube video. If you just search for Voultar RGB, I think it's Voultar RGB. He's the one who actually makes the amp, and he has a really good tutorial on how to kind of walk through with your soldering iron and install everything. I do want to thank Super Secret Bonus Level here in Tallahassee for letting me call them up and dig through their spare stuff and find a 64 with the proper revision on it. If you do want to attempt the mod, you are going to need to double check that. I didn't know that there was different, I thought all the boards were the same, I didn't know there were different models. So keep that in mind before you take this on. None of the colored ones will have the right board. You're going to need a gray one, but there are some gray ones that have the wrong revision as well. So the first one I opened had like a CPU 05, which wouldn't work, so this one had a CPU 03, which worked pretty good. So thank you guys, as always, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any questions on the mod or anything I did, let me know. Next time, it's getting late today, so next time we'll probably be tearing apart the Twin Famicom and doing the cap kit on that, as well as the NES RGB mod. So thank you guys again, we'll catch you in the next one.